Hey guys, I'm Jen Carlquist, and I'm super looking forward to meeting each and every one of you at the conference this year. It's coming up in just a few weeks in beautiful sunny San Diego, and I'm going to do a few lectures there, but I'm going to do my EKG workshop that I do. It's a hands-on, intense workshop where you leave in just 3 hours being more confident and competent reading EKGs. A little taste of what we're going to do. So we are going to go over this normal EKG, and we're going to go over the intervals, the top numbers, and what's normal and what's not normal. We're going to talk about the PQRST. We're going to go back to the basics at first. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to blend it all together with how the EKG corresponds to the heart and what artery feeds where. I'm going to pass this around. We're going to put our hands on it, and I'm going to show you each artery and what it feeds. And also, we are going to go over a 13-page workbook. This is it right here. This is one of the EKGs, and we're going to do it together, and you're going to write on it and make marks so you can study it later if you want to and go back to it. I also want to give you a sneak peek of a presentation that is a little sampler. This is a little taste of the live EKG workshop. We're going to cover normal cardiac conduction, rhythm review, how to assess a heart rate, and a 10-step program when you're reading an EKG that you can use every single time in clinic. We're going to do, again, like I said, break down in detail the normal EKG and what makes it normal. And we're going to talk about identifying where the STEMI is and subtle STEMI, things like non-specific ST wave changes. And we're going to do an interactive workbook with hands-on time. We're also going to cover STEMI mimics. This was one of them. This clearly says the machine interpretation that it's an acute STEMI. And you need to make a decision wherever this patient you're seeing them, right? Clinic, ER, urgent care. Do they need to go to the hospital? Is it a STEMI, or is this something else? And we're going to talk about why this wasn't a STEMI in detail. This is another good case that we're going to talk about. This is a 19-year-old athlete, and we're going to discover there's 3 abnormalities here and clues of why he went into atrial fibrillation and how we could predict it and how to look at each wave and know what specifically to look for when you have a patient who comes in with palpitations. And this was one of the big bad wolves. And finally, this EKG, this is a great one. This demonstrates something called S1Q3T3. And this is associated with PE. And I'm going to go into detail on what this is, how you find it, and also the other abnormality that's on this EKG, the flipped T waves. We're going to talk a lot about those and the 3 differentials for flipped T waves. And finally, this case, I'm going to run through with you real quick because this is so important. This was a 45-year-old female with dyspnea on exertion for 1 month. She used to ride her bike, very active, and then she became dyspneic just walking down the hall. Did a bunch of labs, right? She's a menstruating female. Is she anemic? What's her creatinine? What's her thyroid? It's all normal. Her glucose a little elevated, but you know, not fasting, so okay. And she had a calcium score just 4 years ago, which means that this is probably not coronary artery disease. And we're going to talk about calcium scores when I see you at the conference. Now here's your EKG, and you can clearly see that there's an abnormality here. And the abnormality is very blatant. Her QRS complexes are very small. She's got low voltage QRS. And we're going to talk about voltage a lot when we're talking about chamber enlargement, because you can tell how big the heart is by the EKG without even getting an echo. Of course, we're going to, but these are clues. So this patient who had low voltage QRS had been written off several times with this exact EKG, feeling short of breath. She was told she was just anxious. And guess what? She had a pericardial effusion. And this is it. This is it right here. This is her echocardiogram. And as you can see here, you've got the left atrium, the left ventricle. Here's the right ventricle, and it's being collapsed by the black that's fluid. And her right atrium was actually buckling. This black stuff is all fluid here that shouldn't be here. And this white here, this is actually pericarditis. She had a thickened pericardium, and so that's what it looks like. And the clues for her was that she was dyspneic on exertion and low voltage. Here's her echo read where it shows that she had a moderate circumferential pericardial effusion. It also appeared that she had pericarditis, which we just saw. And it shows that the atrium and ventricle do collapse in diastoles. That's really significant. This is someone who is at risk for tamponade at any minute. So what did she need? She needed a pericardial window. They took a postage stamp size out of her pericardium, and she's doing great now. But unfortunately, that EKG finding was missed because we don't know to look for it. So we're going to talk about all the big bad wolves that can get you and your patient if you don't pick them up, because the machine, unfortunately, does not always tell the full story. So there's still room in the boot camp. This is going to be the last one I do this year. So if you've wanted to come, I'll catch you in San Diego. All right, see you guys soon.